Hi, this is Tamara Kelly from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Bubble Pop Dishcloth, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Go to the link in the description or to your favorite search engine and type in Moogly Bubble Pop Dishcloth, and it should pop right up. Let's take a closer look at what we used. To make the Bubble Pop Dishcloth, I used a USH 5mm crochet hook. This one's by Furls. I also used 135 yards of Herrschner's Cottage cotton, which is a 4 or medium weight yarn. It's also 60% cotton and 40% acrylic, so it still has some absorbency, but it's a little bit more durable. This colorway is Tame Teal, and as you can see, this is the only skein I have. I will be using what's left to make our demo today. I also recommend that you have some stitch markers. Stitch markers are super handy to help us keep track of the first and last stitch of each row and avoid having wobbly edges. This Bubble Pop dishcloth is approximately 10.5 inches wide by 10.5 inches tall, a nice, big, generous size. Let's get started. As you can see here, the Bubble Pop dishcloth features small bobbles or clusters in between longer stitches. These create an offset pattern with a lot of texture and beauty, and even the back looks attractive as well with its own unique pattern. To begin the Bubble Pop dishcloth, you want to start with a chain of 32, or, and here's a little secret, any even number at all, depending on how big or small you want your dishcloth to be. Since I've got less than half the skein left, I'm just going to make a little sample right here. After you've got your chaining done, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and then each remaining chain across. Basically, we want our first row to be all single crochets. Now, when I do this, I prefer to work into the underneath hump of the chain rather than under the top two loops. This gives me a better finished edge when I come around with my border. So, I'm going to skip that chain closest to my hook, go to the next chain, insert my hook, and make my single crochet. That is the first single crochet of our row, and this is a great place to put your first stitch marker. This way, when we come back for row 2, we'll know exactly where to put our last stitch. Now, we simply continue to single crochet in each stitch across. So, for the full-size dishcloth, you should have a total of 31 single crochets. So after you've finished row 1 with any number of odd stitches, then we're ready for row 2. We're going to turn, and then we're going to make a chainless starting double crochet in the first stitch. If you prefer, you can do a chain 3 or a stacked single crochet. This is simply the double crochet chain 3 substitute that I prefer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up on this loop to the height of a double crochet, or where I think a double crochet will be with this yarn. Then I'm going to secure the top of that loop with my finger, making sure that the loop can't move on the hook. Then I will be able to yarn over with the loop itself and go right into that first stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then I can finally release that loop at the top and yarn over and pull through too. Now this is my first stitch of this row, so I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker right in the top of this stitch. There we go. Like I say, if you don't like making that stitch, it's no big deal. You can simply chain 3 instead, or use whatever you like to use in place of a chain 3 for a double crochet. After that, we're going to bobble in the next stitch. And bobble is one of those stitches that can be different in every pattern you make, kind of like the V-stitch. So you always need to read the special stitches. For us, it's a double crochet 3 together all in the same stitch. So let's do that right here. We're going to be working right into that next stitch. So we're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. We stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over and go back into that stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and we stop with 3 loops left on the hook. One more, we yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and now once we've got 4 loops left on our hook, we yarn over and pull through all 4 stitches. So that's a double crochet 3 together bobble. After that, we are going to chain 1 and skip the next stitch. And that starts our repeat actually. The chain 1 and skip 1 is the first part of the repeat. The last part of the repeat, bobble in the next stitch. So let's do that again. We yarn over, remember to skip that stitch, go to the next one, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over again, go back into the same stitch, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go in that same stitch again, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now with 4 loops left on the hook, we can yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So let's do that same repeat from the beginning one more time. Chain 1, skip 1, bobble in the next. Stop with 2 loops left on the hook. Go back in that same stitch. Work till you have 3 loops left on the hook. One more time. 4 loops left on the hook. We yarn over and pull through all 4. And then we keep doing that all the way across until 1 stitch remains, and then we double crochet in the very last stitch. So here I am almost done with row 2, but I just wanted to point out, remember that our repeat is chain 1, skip 1, bobble in the next stitch. So it will be that very next stitch that we put our double crochet into. We don't want a chain 1 and skip 1 in between the bobble and the double crochet, at least not yet. Now we've known right where to stop, we knew right where to end that row, so we can take that stitch marker out and use it as we begin row 3. Okay, so to begin row 3, we're going to turn and chain 1 or chain 1 and turn, however you prefer to do it. And then we're going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So as soon as I've got that first one made, I will go ahead and put my stitch marker right in the top. And then work a single crochet in the next one, which would be the top of that bobble right there. There we go. Then, coming back to our instructions, this is where we begin the repeat. So this is the part with the asterisk. We double crochet in the skipped stitch below the next chain 1 space, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and that's our repeat. Now, it's important to always read the notes at the beginning of the pattern, which when you read there, you'll see that when we're working these double crochet stitches between the bobbles, we want to enclose the chain 1 and pull up the first loop higher than usual to create the look that we get in this pattern. So let's do that together now. It's a double crochet, so I'm going to yarn over, and I want to go into that skipped stitch all the way down here. But I'm not working in front of that chain 1 space, I'm going to enclose it. So that means I'm going to bring my working yarn right over the top of it and yarn over and pull up a loop. But I don't want it to squinch down. I want to take the time and pull that loop up. See how I'm pulling it all the way up there to the height of the rest of the row? And then I'm going to go ahead and finish that double crochet. Then, to complete our repeat, we single crochet in the next stitch, which would be the top of the next bobble. So let's do that together again. I'm going to yarn over, find the stitch we skipped below the next chain 1 space. Remember, bring that yarn all the way around so that that chain 1 space gets enclosed inside, and be sure to pull that loop all the way up to the top before you finish your double crochet. Then, single crochet in the next stitch. And we continue that all the way across. 1 stitch will remain. And of course, we want to put a single crochet in that very last stitch. So this is what it should look like at the end of row 3. Again, I had 1 more stitch left, and we put a single crochet right in the top of that. So now we're ready for row 4. For row 4, I'm going to turn, and I'm again going to start with the chainless starting double crochet. And again, you should start with whatever double crochet substitute you prefer. It's really about you being pleased with your project and the look you're getting, and whatever stitch gives you the best look is absolutely the stitch you should use. I'm going to put my stitch marker right there in the top. There we go. And now we're ready to come back to our pattern. Now you may have noticed when you were looking at the finished washcloth that the bobbles were slightly offset, so that's what we're going to be doing now. We've got our double crochet here in our first stitch. Now we're going to chain 1 and skip 1. Chain 1 and skip 1, and then we have our repeat. Bobble in the next stitch, then chain 1 and skip 1. You might remember before when we were making bobbles, they were right up next to the double crochets at the end. This row is where we have a little bit of space. So we double crochet, then we chain one, skip one, and then bobble in the next. So if you look closely, you can see we're working that bobble into the top of the double crochet, that tall double crochet that we made before. But these bobbles are just like the bobbles we did before, where essentially we're starting 3 double crochets all in the same stitch. Once we've got those 4 loops left, we yarn over and pull through all 4 to finish, chain one, and skip the next stitch. So for this row, our repeat can begin with our bobble and finish with the chain one, skip one, because then we'll have 1 stitch left and we'll work our double crochet right in that very last stitch. So now I'm right at the end of row 4, and I just want to finish this up with you again. So you can see I've worked my bobble, I've got my chain one, I skip one, and that lands me right in that very last stitch. So we're just going to work a double crochet right there. There we go. So you can see how our wrong side row is shaping up. Bobbles almost always are used on the wrong side row because they look so beautiful from the right side row. But now we need another row of single crochet in row 5. So for row 5, we want to chain one because we're going to be doing a row of single crochet. And that means we single crochet in that first stitch. And of course, I want to move my stitch marker right up into that new first stitch of this row. There we go. Pull up a little bit more yarn. And now, because we have that chain one, skip one right here, we're going to start right away with that tall double crochet. So same thing. We're going to enclose that chain one space and work into the skipped stitch underneath it. So we want to bring that yarn all the way around and pull all the way up. That's the most important thing, is just take your time, pull that loop all the way up to the height of the rest of the stitch before you finish the double crochet. Then you can single crochet in the next stitch, and then make another tall double crochet in the skipped stitch, pulling that loop up every time. Single crochet in the next stitch, and that repeat will take you all the way across to the end for row 5. So this is what it should look like at the end of row 5. And now we have completed our row repeats as well. We're going to continue repeating rows 2 through 5 until we've made a total of 27 rows. So that means we'll end on a row 3 repeat. So I'll see you there. So I've had a couple of rows here so that I've ended on a row 3 repeat, but I did want to point out, if you're changing the size of your cloth, it's okay to end on either a row 3 or a row 5 repeat. The point is to end on a row where you've got the single crochets and the tall double crochets. Then you're ready to move on to your border rounds. And there are 2 rounds for our border, which are both going to be worked from the right side, which means when you finish up that single crochet and double crochet row, we're not going to be turning our work this way anymore, but rather we're going to be working all the way around the outside from this side. So let's work on round 1 of our border. So now I'm going to start by working down this side. So I will chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet in the side of our last row. So if you make the full size, it would be row 27. So that means in the side of the row we just made. So I will pick up a couple loops here from the side of that single crochet we finished with and put a single crochet right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my next stitch marker right there so that I know that that is the beginning of our first border round here. Now what we're going to do is chain 2, 1, 2, skip the side of the double crochet row and single crochet in the side of the single crochet row. So you can just kind of look at it right here and see, okay, this is where that single crochet little stitch is. We just want to pop right in there with a single crochet. Chain 2, look at your work, say, okay, that's the double crochet. You can kind of pull it apart and look and see. That double crochet has worked right there, so that's our single crochet row. And we just keep doing that all the way down until we get to the bottom of that first row. Chain 2, that first row was a row of single crochet, so we can work right in the side there. There we go. Now, let's return to our instructions. Once we're in that corner, we want to chain 2. And that will be our corner. And this is where I like to use a few extra stitch markers sometimes if I have them. I know this is going to be a corner chain 2 space. I'm going to put a stitch marker right around that chain 2, and that's going to help me work my next round. So now going back to our instructions here, we are ready to single crochet in each foundation chain across. So that means just in the bottom of each one of those stitches. And this is where having worked into that underneath hump is so nice. This gives us a really nice tight fit for our border. You're not going to get any of that weird gapping that you can get sometimes when you work into the single loop. And also, it just gives us these nice 2 loops to work under, so it feels like we're working to the top of row. Overall, just a more pleasant experience in my opinion. And if you decided not to put a border around it, of course, you've got a really nice looking finished edge ready for you. So we simply single crochet in each one of these stitches across here. You can see I've got one more. And now, turning to our instructions, of course, we want to chain 2 for this corner. We're at a corner. We always want to do the same thing in each corner. So I'm going to grab another stitch marker here. There we go. And then, again, we want to make sure we're being symmetrical. So I am going to single crochet in the side of this first row here, our first row of single crochets. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing on the other side. So that means I'm going to chain 2, skip the row of double crochet, find that row of single crochet. You can kind of look and see how there's the double crochet. That's a tall stitch. Right there's a short stitch. That informs me where to put my hook, like so. And then chain 2 again and just do that all the way to the top. Okay, so on our little swatch, I'm already coming up here, so that means I am going to single crochet in the side of this row. And remember, we had that stitch marked there. That was the first stitch of this row, so we know right to go in the side of that one, like so, as best you can. Then we're going to chain 2 again. We've got another corner. Always want to make sure we get those chain 2s at the corner. So I'll put my stitch marker right around that. And I'm going to go ahead and get this one out of the way. And now we are simply going to single crochet in each of these stitches across. So we know we want to go right back in that one. So there's a single crochet in each of those stitches. Now, when we get to the end of this row, which I'll do pretty quickly here since I've just got this little swatch, we don't want to forget to do our last chain 2 for the corner. So make sure you get each one of these stitches. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Chain 2 for the corner. And if you'd like, you can put another stitch marker. Oh, we have one right there. And then we simply join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, which we put our blue stitch marker in right there. There we go. So let me pull my hook out of the way for a second. We can take a look at what that looks like. So you can see we've got our chain 2 spaces here on the sides and a solid row of single crochet and double crochet across the top. So this is what it should look like. And of course your size after border round 1. So now we're ready for border round 2. And for this round, we're going to be evening it all up with single crochet all the way around. So that means we're going to start with a chain 1, and I'm going to go ahead and move this stitch marker out of the way and go right in that first stitch we joined to for our first single crochet. And I am going to go ahead and use one stitch marker probably in this round just to mark this stitch. Then we're going to work on down the sides, and as we do, we're going to work 2 single crochets in each chain 2 space along the sides and a single crochet in each single crochet. So we look at our work. What's up next? A chain 2 space. So we're going to go in there with 2 single crochets, and you can go right into the space itself. Now, if you prefer, you can go into the actual chains. It's up to you. I prefer to go into the chain space. Next, we have a single crochet, so we want to put a single crochet in it. Another chain 2 space, we'll put 2 single crochets right there. Then a chain, then a single crochet, we want to put a single crochet there. Then a chain, so we want to put 2 single crochets in that. And then we've got our single crochet right here. Now, that brings us to our chain 2 corner space. When we come to a chain 2 corner space, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet right in that chain 2 corner. So that means we go into that chain 2 space, we single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet right back there again. I'm not going to bother marking this one because we're not going to come back around to it. This is our final round. Then I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch across until we get to the next corner. Once you've single crocheted across the bottom, we come to another chain 2 corner space. So we want to again do the same thing. We'll move our stitch marker out of the way here, and we work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Then we're working up this second side. So remember, when we come to a single crochet, we single crochet in it. When we come to a chain 2, we work 2 single crochets in it. Another single crochet, another chain 2 space, another single crochet, and on our little swatch here, our final chain 2 space. I've got one more stitch here along this side. That brings me to my chain 2 corner, which we know what to do: single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. Then we'll just single crochet our way across the top. So I worked a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that corner, single crocheted in each stitch across, and that brings us to the very last corner where, of course, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. So you can take that last corner stitch marker out. Don't forget that last single crochet. I say it because I have a bad habit of it myself. And then we're ready to finish off. Some people prefer to join with a slip stitch and then break their yarn and finish off. I prefer to actually break my yarn and finish off using a seamless join. So rather than joining with a slip stitch, I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. Make sure to leave enough to weave in comfortably here. And then, of course, I need to grab a yarn needle, and I'm going to just pull up on my hook, put that end on my yarn needle, and then I can simply stitch to either the first or second stitch of the round. Now, if I were making squares, for instance, that I wanted to join with other squares, so I needed to keep my stitch count, I would make sure to join to the second one. But for a project like this, you can join to wherever makes you happy. I just sew in to that stitch and then go back to the stitch I came from, and we can even it out and make it look like every other stitch in the row. Weave in your ends and you're all done. And that's how to crochet the Bubble Pop Dishcloth. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.